I'm just putting it out there, if Dwayne Johnson's going to start making movies based on the random crappy encounters on British TV in his hotel room late at night, we should probably start hoping the guy never sees Ibiza Weekender. Full disclosure up front, I'm a big fan of Paige. I mean, who wouldn't be, right? She's a kick-ass, uncompromising, take-no-prisoners British goth wrestler who somehow got into the WWE only to then become the overnight ambassador who'd redefine what it meant to be a woman on that roster. Hell, I'm surprised they let us have any jokes in it. I mean, stick this in front of Jennifer Lawrence and David O. Russell and you'd at least get a Best Picture nomination out of that concept, right? Mercifully though, you can forego the usual J-Law costume party for this one, and instead what you get is something with way more fun and way more charm than you would have expected. So the story goes that Dwayne Johnson saw the documentary Fighting with My Family on TV one night when he was filming the latest movie in that franchise he leads, Furious 6. The doc's pretty fun, actually. You can probably watch it in its entirety still, free on Vimeo if you never have, and well, it tells the same story that this does, about a family of British wrestlers who run the fledgling World Association of Wrestling out of Norwich, and, well, they get the chance to ascend to the American big leagues, and that drives a wedge between the otherwise, relatively harmonious siblings, Saraya and Zach. The documentary was really likeable. It was clunky, charming, sort of reality TV level fare, but it drew a lot of charm out of the wrestling angle and had a lot of fun characters. And evidently it was fun enough that DJ picked up the phone, snatched up the rights there and then, and got his old Tooth Fairy buddy Stephen Merchant to write and direct a rather likeable underdog family dramedy out of it. I mean, Rock's on there as a producer and even a low-level co-star. Merchant puts in a cameo too, and as if to make this absolutely unmissable full stop, they even went and got a straight-off Lady Macbeth Florence Pugh to play Saraya, which is a casting movie you just can't possibly defend yourself from, and yeah, she's got it down. By the way, I'm going to keep hopping between the names Saraya, Paige, Ray, Brittany, all the same woman. It's just hard to land on a fixed name before she herself settles on Paige, which I really didn't know was because of charm. It's one of those glaringly obvious things you have to call yourself an idiot for having never really considered. Hey, I just thought it was like the audition scene in Showgirls and the WWE pick their names. Regardless of whether or not you've seen the documentary, what Merchant and Johnson have cooked up here is a straight narrative retelling of those events. It's reframed with Paige at the center and focuses to a lesser extent on a B-plot that contrasts the brother Zach's struggle to face his own shortcomings against Paige's struggle to face a world that sort of exists on this whole other level above what she'd ever known. Pugh and Jack Loudon, who plays Zach, they're both terrific. They actually both zero in on that sweet spot between what's basically pub humor and kind of sweet, sincere drama, and the physicality they bring to it, each of them, that's just flawless. Yeah, they're likable, charming, everyday folk, but you never start to doubt that either can take a chair to the face and still be back handing out flyers with a smile the next day. On a critic and a fan level, I just think Pugh's exceptional. Thanks to Instagram, I actually know she never met the real Paige before the press tour for this, and yet she still has the physical demeanor, the movements, the attitude down so well at times. I'd have put money on them being cocktail buddies during the development phase. Very fun supporting cast in there. Vince Vaughn's kind of note perfect, actually, as the, bit of a dick, but he's nice, really, kind of WWE coach. Nick Frost and Lena Headey are a lot of fun as Paige and Zach's parents. The Dwayne Johnson element is far less embedded than the marketing would have you believe, and, well, he's good fun in it. And there are a couple of sort of required WWE cameos in there. Yeah, you can probably guess which ones, to be fair. And then there's the cameo pairing of Stephen Merchant and Julia Davis, that's hilarious. I mean, of course it is. Actually, I did spot the real Zach Bevis cameoing in there at one point too. Didn't offhandedly spot either of his parents, but I wouldn't be shocked to find out they were in there somewhere. So, great cast, charming performances, very likeable script, and decently solid, if unremarkable, direction from Merchant. If we're honest though, I kind of expected that last part. It wasn't really like we were going to get auteur-level craftsmanship out of what's effectively a lionized biopic for the manager of SmackDown, though I'll literally never complain if something like that actually happens. I was just really taken in by how well it balances that tried and tested sort of still crazy aesthetic with the glossier, sun-drenched Florida palette that it inevitably has to turn to tell the story. it turns out that bit is something Merchant's actually quite the guy for. So, generally speaking, Fighting With My Family sets about utilizing the emotional story at its core to position the WWE brand as a sort of modern-day dream factory. Which is fair play, as the sort of real-world side of that does come off as being the pageant athlete's answer to that scene in Showgirls. What it doesn't do though, and I'm really surprised by this because the WWE aren't terrifically regarded for being self-aware, is to polish up the brand as being this infallible wonderland. I mean, in the real world, every time Hulk Hogan sneezes, the WWE positions its finger over a delete from history button in their archive, so that they're as willing to sign off on the nominally darker elements that they do here is actually kind of a shock. Even if the nastier Randy the Ram level stuff is like noticeably saved for the British wrestling scenes rather than the American ones. But the fans will love this because it tells a genuinely great underdog story within this world that just so rarely gets laid out and explored like wrestling does here. But for those who aren't fans of wrestling or don't get wrestling or just never really had an interest, well, they got you covered too. In fact, they've even specifically written you in by proxy of Stephen Merchant and Julia Davis. But regardless of what you personally think about wrestling, Pugh and Loudon are so likable in the leads that they'll win you over pretty quickly anyway. It's laugh out loud hilarious, it's got bags of heart, more than a few ouch moments in both the physical and the emotional sense. It just worked for me completely. Just to head off the nitpickers, they do play around with the timeline a little bit, so like Paige's NXT period seems to last about 2 weeks here, and a lot of her career gets glossed over. And no, obviously The Rock was not back in the fold at that specific point that they keep showing clips of as TV spots. But it's all pretty affable and innocuous enough that it really doesn't matter in the slightest. Besides, if you're an actual fan of this stuff, you already know there's an entire second movie you could get out of the Paige story based on the years since this, so let that smug feeling be your reward. FYI though, I would kill to see that movie, get this cast back and do that as the sequel. I'm in sight unseen. But I'm gonna see this again, I really dug this. I can sit and enjoy WWE well enough, and I'm not what you'd call a wrestling guy. I did enjoy that documentary though, and it does make for a pretty endearing, family-centric underdog wrestling dramedy, and well, I'm glad. It's actually fun to see a fun little movie concept just shoot for nothing more than being a fun little movie, and to let what it's representing speak for itself. Hell, Dwayne Johnson got me to enjoy Vince Vaughn in a movie in 2019. There really is nothing that man can't do. So it's 3 stars from me. It's not a flawless film, but it's a very likable one. I'll watch Florence Pugh in anything. She's perfectly cast as Soraya. Jack Loudon's making a fan out of me fast. And I'll laugh my ass off all the way through. Definitely see this. Also worth checking out in cinemas this week though, the Israeli movie Foxtrot. You might have heard of this one. It's been kicking around in that space between getting picked up at a festival and actually being put out for a little while now. It's the story of a couple in Tel Aviv who get told that their son, who's a soldier, has been killed in action. Naturally, their whole world just falls apart in an instant, and we get to explore the toll that begins to take on them. Rather deftly too. You could see this movie just for Leonor Ashkenazi's performance, if nothing else. Meanwhile, the film also explores the son's time in the service too, takes on a bit of a different and more proactive emotional story. I don't want to say much more because the film's not brilliantly subtle about where it's going, so kind of the less you know of it, the better to really take it in, I guess. It's a really intriguing familial drama though. I was absolutely blown away by Ashkenazi, and writer-director Samuel Moaz, he finds this great juxtaposition between tense handheld stuff and some rather ambitious, more classically framed visuals as well. 3 stars from me. I wouldn't call it positively unmissable or anything, but I did find it just a grounded, stirring character drama with a really terrific lead. And I tell you, I wouldn't be shocked to see that bag itself an English language remake starring like Bryan Cranston or Steve Carell at some stage. I want that on the record. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, rate, and review.